The S&ED is a unique platform in its scope and its capacity to bring people from different parts of the governments together and so forth. The problem with the S&ED is that it meets for a little more than a day and a half once a year. And after that, we go right back to the stovepipes, where we have all of these specialized points of contact between our governments, but you lose the advantage of bridging the normal lanes that people stay in order to address issues more effectively. I think that each year's S&ED, in addition to whatever else it does, should identify one or two really core topics for the relationship and establish an interagency working group on both sides tasked by the S&ED to come up with a report on and recommendations concerning that particular core issue for the next S&ED to act on. That would help to sustain this unique capacity of the S&ED, because it's supported at the very highest levels of each government, to pull together the different bureaucracies and actually get them to talk to each other to address some common issues. I think the Chinese, more than in the past, will be very concerned with their access to the U.S. market, not so much for exports, although that's always a concern, but rather for direct investment. And what our rules are going to be as applied to Chinese investments for potentially constraining those investments on national security or related grounds. They now have, last year they made foreign direct investments. This is not buying treasuries. It's in addition to buying treasuries and that kind of thing, but actually buying companies or parts of companies or setting up their own companies abroad. Globally, they did that at a level of more than $50 billion last year. It almost certainly will be more than $100 billion within a year and a half to 2 years. And by the year 2020, they probably will have invested abroad more than $2 trillion. We certainly want to get a piece of that. They, as of now, are very worried about how welcome their investment is in the United States. So I think there's a lot of brush clearing to do here, of clarifying what kinds of investments are welcome, what are the standards that have to be met, and how open an environment this is. The issue of energy cooperation will not be nearly as central in this dialogue as it's been in the last 2 years. Maybe that's simply the abundance of other issues on the table, but I've heard a number of top U.S. officials kind of preview this dialogue, both publicly and privately, and no one has raised clean energy as an item on the agenda. I'm sure it will be on the agenda, but it suggests that's retreated somewhat. And then on the economic track, which Secretary Geithner leads on our side, I think we're likely to see that the issue of Chinese currency will play a lesser role than it's played in the past. It'll be there, but won't be nearly as central. For us, the issues of what the Chinese call indigenous innovation, which involves rules concerning technology transfer and technology development for goods that are sold in China, rules of government procurement, and rules concerning intellectual property protection are going to be very high on our agenda, and we'll be pushing them very hard. In the real world, the military is extremely important to the concerns of the strategic track of this dialogue. Their participation, the first time we had the S&ED, was basically zero. Their participation the second time was totally marginal. This time, we have convinced the Chinese to send over a 4-star with a, I think, reasonably serious military delegation. On the Chinese side, it is virtually unheard of for the military and civilian people at a basically ministerial and sub-ministerial level to be in the same room meeting with foreigners. These are really very distinctive. So we've had access to the Chinese military through our military, but never through our diplomats. And we are going to, that's always a separate kind of track. We're going to try to get the military and civilians on both sides together for a real security dialogue. Now, frankly, it's very unclear what the quality of that dialogue will be. It may be with both the military and civilians in the room in China. Each will just stick to their talking points and not much will occur. But it's a start, and it represents some progress over what we've done before. And certainly our objective over time is to have a serious security dialogue as an integral part of our strategic dialogue. It makes perfect sense, but it hasn't happened to date.